Hello there, everybody. This is Alex from Hardcoring Guides, bringing you my guide for X-Men Origins Wolverine on hard difficulty. Today we are doing Chapter 1, entitled Origins. This is going to be the first chapter of 5, and each of these chapters are going to be at least anywhere from maybe an hour minimum to about 2 hours. So, granted, most of these are going to be cut, so that would obviously trim down for time. I was only able to trim down 20 and a half minutes of footage that I had gotten. So this is going to be like an hour and 40-minute video. And I could, in theory, cut them in half and make them 10 parts long, because a lot of these levels end up kind of just being sort of like, you know, you have the present day action sequences, and then you have the past flashback sequences. And it seems like every chapter just does that, at least until chapter 3, or at least until chapter 4 and 5. So anyway, what the heck even is X-Men Origins Wolverine, first of all? It's essentially a game that I don't remember exactly when it came out. Also, I'm playing the Uncaged edition, by the way. I just want to mention that real quick. So it's going to have a lot more blood and gore. That's a thing, I guess. I didn't know that. But anyway, it's a game that came out, I think I remember, like, in the late 2000s, something like that. Maybe, I don't know. 2007, anywhere from that to, like, 2010. And it came after, you know, obviously the popularity of, like, you know, say, God of War and, of course, Devil May Cry. Because if we didn't have Devil May Cry, we probably wouldn't have God of War. So, but yeah, when it comes to it, this is relatively a decent enough God of War clone, I guess you would call them. And Marvel has a pretty decent track record of making decently good hack and slash games. And I say decently good because not all of them are like on par with, you know, the likes of God of War, but they're at least functionally well. I haven't played the Thor game, but I've heard much about it, but I've never played that one. I've only really played this. I've played Ghost Rider, and I thought that was fine. I've played Deadpool, which is not really God of War-ish. It's just more of a hack and slash, I guess. If anything, it's closer to like maybe Darksiders / Devil May Cry. By the way, I know I'm not doing my guide specifically here, or not doing very well at giving advice. There's really no advice of this part to give besides, I mean, you have healing factor. You're going to regenerate all the time. So just go apeshit, learn the parry timings and stuff, and you'll figure things out. And of course, this video is also just showcasing me figuring things out as I go too, because this was my first time playing in like years. So do keep that in mind. So yeah, no real super techniques against like regular enemies besides just keep chopping away and they'll eventually die. Or grab them a bunch. You know, that's a thing that you can do. Grab them and throw them and whatever. So anyway, yeah, you know, I've played, you know, quite a few. I don't know if Spider-Man and Shattered Dimensions counts. Like, they have beat-em-up sections, but I don't know if that actually counts as, like, a God of War clone. But either way, when it comes to God of War clones, if you really want to call this one, which I don't know if people would get pissed off if I called it that or not, let's just say it's just a hack and slash. I mean, it's just of the era. It definitely is, of course, of the era, and there's a lot of things that are kind of wrong with it, especially the platforming. Sorry. I'll clear my throat for a second there. There's definitely a lot of things wrong with it, like the platforming, and every once in a while some things get kind of bugged. And enemies just can kind of be a little strange in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of ways to cheese things. But for the most part, if you play the game pretty much safe, and you don't worry too much about, you know, the little things that tend to happen around the field, then everything's okay. So, something that, like I said, you're going to want to probably get down quick is the parry timing, which is not too difficult. And you do, you know, basically get a parry at the start of the game, which is really nice. And also, you know, at this beginning part, this prologue part, you don't start getting... Like, you do get experience, you do level up. But if I'm not mistaken, I think you don't get upgrade points until, like, maybe, I'd say, either close to the end of this chapter, or just... God damn. I'm sorry. Either close to the end of this chapter, or it was chapter 2. I can't exactly remember. But at some point in time, you start getting health upgrades. It might be middle way through this chapter when we go into the labs. When we start going into the actual origins of Wolverine, so to speak. So, yeah. Now, other things I want to go and explain real quick is there's going to be a few moves I'm going to be using quite often. And I will be going over them, probably especially as we see them. If we ever really get to see the chance. Because right now it just looks like a bunch of blitzing and, you know, running around and hacking and slashing and not really having any sort of form to it. And yeah, that's true because I don't. But later on in the game, I eventually start to learn how to do things. And I strictly wanted to learn parry timing and understand, like, okay, so parries are a thing. I need to learn that and understand that that's a thing that needs to happen. Feral senses are also really helpful too, especially if you want to figure out where to go. If you're new to this game by any chance, and you need like some type of way marker, that's definitely one of those ones that is a decent one enough to actually use when it comes to that type of stuff. And it also highlights objects around the field, such as collectibles like dog tags, which do give you experience, and so on and so forth. Most of everything is kind of just figure out for yourself. It's not too complicated. The game's not that complicated at all, really. I wouldn't even say it's really that hard. There's some spots that are going to get a little bit tricky, but other than that, this game is relatively somewhat decent enough to go through, especially for a first-timer. If you're new to, like, hack and slash games, this is definitely what I would recommend for somebody that would be new to hack and slash, I guess. And so, yeah, when it comes to the flashy stuff, I'll try to do as much as I can, but the things that tend to kind of work the most, and you'll find out later, is when you get to a point in the game, you're able to, not this one, but once you eventually, I think you have to learn the move, I forget what it was, but when you learn the move for grab, and then you have to, now don't forget, when you grab somebody, make sure you stand in place and don't move a direction, because if you move a direction, you're going to get screwed over. Also, those spikes on the ground, for those that aren't aware, those spikes on the ground and those spikes, like, around the field, you can grab guys like this. These are essentially just like, we'll call them sub-bosses, if anything. They're not really mini-bosses, but actually, yeah, I guess they are mini-bosses. These little mini-boss type guys, these much more elite enemy variants of different enemies that appear. These guys right here, one, are annoying as hell, and, typically the best way to beat them down is just to continuously attack them and give them no chance to do anything. The thing is, you can grab them and you can throw them off like cliffs, and you can throw them on to like ledges and stuff, and you can kill them instantly if you wanted to. And that's what the poles and the spikes are usually typically used for, is just that. And this right here is just me trying out different moves and trying to remember how to play the game and understand parry timing and what have you. Which I don't fully get down when it comes to a lot of the enemies, but, still. Also, whenever you throw an enemy onto like a spike, or you kill them via, like a pole or a spike or whatever, the enemies will eventually disappear on that same spike. So after a while, you could just throw another guy onto it if you wanted to, just to make quick work of them. And yeah, like I said, a lot of the stuff is just going to be relatively straightforward. You just kind of just move through enemies. You heal while you do it. There are certain moves like I was going to talk about, but I keep going off topic about. There's a few moves that I recommend that I use quite a bit, and that's the square square triangle move, which allows you to essentially knock a multiple amount of enemies in the air at once. I don't really recommend using triangle by itself. I feel like triangle by itself just doesn't really do exactly what I need it to do. And the full square combo is pretty good, especially for knocking away enemies. The square triangle move is okay. It's also like it's sort of like a knock-up move, but it's not really anything I rely on too heavily. And the reason why I suggest using moves that knock up enemies to begin with is so that way you can get like either some air combos or just keep them from hitting you from the ground, or B, you can grab them from the ground, such as like with God of War, if you're familiar with that type of game, where if you were to knock an enemy in the air, you could press circle while on the ground, and Kratos would grab the enemy and then throw them back on the ground, and you could re-loop it. And when it comes to just regular enemies and not like the mini boss variants of them or the elite variants of them, you can almost infinitely grab somebody, and you'll definitely see it more often throughout this gameplay. Probably not specifically this chapter, but in like later on chapters, you'll definitely get to see a ton more of me just relying on that move, especially at the final boss, which, I probably shouldn't spoil, I guess. I don't know why, it doesn't really matter, but this is based on the movie, so I don't know if it's okay to spoil it out, but I'm just probably going to keep my mouth shut just in case. I know it's a really old game, and it doesn't really matter, but just for the hell of it, just in case somebody hasn't seen this game yet, and they want to experience it for themselves, and then you get to see a little nice surprise that you might not have known about. But yeah, so when it comes to this game, triangle moves are typically only ever really used for either knocking opponents upward, or at the very least, just kind of like a combo ender, if anything. Because typically, a lot of the time, that's just what it seems to be. Now, granted, that's more of a, I guess, if anything, maybe a sterilization or whatever. I'm trying to think of a good word for that to describe it. Not flanderized, but it's just essentially like a more condensed version of what heavy attacks normally do for games, such as, well, again, God of War, where triangle was sometimes typically used for knocking enemies into the air, because it does end up doing that a lot, but I feel like triangle also had more use than just that. It had, slam capabilities too, which also, knocked enemies in the air, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about then. Yeah, it's basically about the same thing. I guess my only real complaint about the triangle moves, or at least the heavy moves in general, because I don't have this on Xbox, I'm playing on PS3. I guess my only problem is the fact that you can't combo into triangle. Like, you can't combo from triangle. You're strictly stuck with comboing from square into triangle, which is just annoying. But yeah, so barrels, explosive barrels, you can't pick them up, unfortunately, which kind of sucks. As far as I'm aware, you can't pick them up. I haven't been able to. And I thought you could, but you can't. You pretty much have to just hit them and get yourself hit with them in order to really do damage against all the enemies and such. So, good luck trying to do no damage run of this game. That's going to be almost damn near impossible. So, yeah, regardless of barrels or not, you're going to get shot at multiple times. And you're definitely going to get shot, and it's going to suck. But, yeah, so something else I didn't really go too much into. But since this is Wolverine, you're going to have the ability to heal and regenerative health. So basically, for those that might not know hack and slashes too well, or maybe just, you're not too familiar with Wolverine, I don't know. I'm just going to explain for anybody that might not know. Essentially, your health is going to regenerate. You have technically 2 health bars. As you can see on the top left there's your heart, and then there's like those 2 meters sticking out from that. The bottom meter is your rage meter. It's used for fury attacks, which basically is this, my R2 and square. And, we're going to get more fury attacks later, and Berserk is pretty much like going to be your go-to one. It's really powerful. And I recommend upgrading at least Berserk to max, and upgrade your claws to max as well for damage and such. You don't have to worry about health and rage mode if you don't want to, but... I recommend that. Just throwing that out there real quick. So the other bar, the red bar obviously is your health, but that's sort of... Think of it this way. That's not really your health. That's more so like your shield. Think of it like that, and that would make more sense. So your shield and your health have the ability to regenerate, but your shield, so to speak, regenerates typically more faster / more often than your normal health. As you can see right now, I'm pretty much almost close to dead. I have gray on my heart. That is its own meter practically. That's where your true health is pretty much hidden behind. And now, to be fair, I'm not the most familiar with it when it comes to Wolverine. I don't know if he has to lose a certain amount of adamantium or whatever in order to start dying. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not specifically too big on Wolverine. I do like him as a character. I think he's really badass. I think he's cool. I think he's definitely one of the the coolest of the Marvel characters out there, along with Spider-Man and such. But that could just be because he's so popular, and then I just eventually just fell into that trap of being yeah, it's pretty cool. But I also like the Hulk as well, so I don't know. And Thor's pretty cool when he's done right. But yeah, so again, think of that heart as your actual real true health. And that's the thing that you really don't want to lose out on, because once you start losing out on that, it's going to take a lot longer to kind of regenerate and such, and blah, blah, blah. And the red orbs are not used for your health. You regenerate health, much like you do in, say, Call of Duty or some sort of, first-person shooter game that allows you to heal via regenerative health. That's basically what it is. There's no better way to describe it besides, yeah, it just regenerates. It's just a shield, and you just have health, and it just comes back when you're not getting hurt. And eventually, later on in the game, you get these things called mutagen, and it's essentially perks, so to speak, where you're allowed to have things that allow you to, gain more experience per kill, or even possibly just, I don't know, take less damage or heal faster, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Also, I only really ever use the Fury Strike, the spinning cyclone move, only when there's a couple of enemies around that just get in my way. I don't think the Fury, or I forget what it's called, but I think it's called Slash. I can't remember. I don't really think of it as a really good move, personally. I think there's a lot better moves out there, especially the drill, the screw, I think it's called. I think it's called Screw Attack. I don't remember. But, yeah, I think that's a lot better move. Also, go for as many dog tags as you can. I think I might have missed a few, I don't know. But for the most part, I'm going to try to go for as many as I possibly can that I remember. dead offhand, or just didn't remember but happened to just stumble across. Because, to be fair, a lot of the dog tags are relatively simplistic to find. Just go off the beaten path. Like, if you know where the next direction to go is, then just don't go that way, and then essentially you could, well, possibly find a dog tag like so. And yeah. Also, do keep in mind that eventually the higher your level, you're going to have to start getting more experience. But the game will compensate for that eventually. Now it's only 500 XP per, well, you know, per dog tag. But eventually it will add up into, like, 3,000 and such. So they'll eventually, grow your stuff. And for those that aren't aware, you can break objects to basically get red orbs back, which, again, red orbs are not used for health. They're actually used to build rage meter. And you get them from, of course, killing enemies and such. And just attacking enemies, I don't think gives you rage meter. It never looked like it did. So just keep that in mind when it comes to management. And also do keep in mind that if you do happen to die, a lot of the time you do kind of like respawn with full health and full rage. I about said magic. I don't know why I said that before. But yeah, you do kind of end up respawning with all of them. So if you happen to be stuck in a boss fight, that might be giving you trouble, or just any sort of group fight in general. Because, to be fair, I don't think this game is hard, but I definitely think it has a few spots that are a little bit tricky, like I said before. I definitely think that there's a few things here that are a little more challenging than one would probably initially expect. And it's typically because, enemies tend to be kind of more tanky, or there might be a boss that just happens to have 4 of him in one fight. Although, when we get to that, you'll see what I'm talking about. But actually, you probably won't, because I'll probably just edit out that bit. Yeah, I basically, for those that are aware, I think it's like chapter 2. There's like an ending fight. It's either chapter 2 or 3. I don't remember which one it is. It's when you're fighting the sniper guy, and he summons like one of the Titan dudes, and I got unlucky, and all 4 got out at once. But you can make it to where you fight 1 at a time, and I thought I could handle 4. Yeah, I got a little bit cocky, so to speak. Also, apologies, I forgot to edit this part out. I think it was probably less of forgetting and more of just laziness, but what I ended up doing was I tried looking around to see if there was like maybe something I could miss before I go. And I kind of also just wanted to check to make sure if the door could stay open, which of course it can't. So I'm pretty much stuck having to, well, open the door again and then have to dodge roll through it. So, something else I want to make mention of, there are 3 dodges in this game. There's technically only 2, but there's a third way to do the second one. And before that, of course, again, spikes, like right here, and then parries. Machete guys, they become a lot easier to kind of deal with. That jumping slam move that they do is kind of hard to avoid. That attack I just did right there is basically dodge rolling over an enemy and then, going for square. That's how I'm doing that. And I think at the time I didn't realize what I was even doing. I think I just was doing it on accident and had no idea I was doing it at all. So, just fair warning for now. Those that are curious about what moves I'm doing, that's basically what's going on. Oh yeah, and then Flaming Machete guy, I typically try to stay in the water whenever I can, so that way I don't get burnt. And that way it kind of stops him from burning too. And whenever he goes into slow-mo, just dodge. So, there's 2 real dodges, but there's a third way to do... Sorry about that. There's a third way to do the next dodge, and... Whoa. I am so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my throat. It's not that I clear it, but just something just came up all of a sudden. Like something like... some chip. Or some... Whoa. God. Apologies, but it's going to be an hour and, 40-minute video, so there's going to be a lot of me not being able to cut out enough. I apologize in advance. So it's going to be a long one. My throat's probably going to hurt by the end of this. But I got to do it. So anyway, oh yeah, also if you throw enemies like this at the wall, elites at the wall, they typically jump off it. So you still, I think, do damage, but it is what it is. Anyway, like I was trying to say, but I keep not saying it, and I keep fucking up, and now I'm actually starting to forget what I was talking about. This is terrible. I had everything, just fine at Danny too, and I can't remember what the fuck I was talking about. It wasn't about combos. It wasn't about the enemies, was it? It wasn't about the Titans, no. The hell was it about? Shit, this is why I hate getting on topic for, because this happens every goddamn time. And I'm gonna watch the video again and be like, oh, so that's what I was talking about. Oh yeah, probably should, explain that. Well, to be fair, most of everything is kind of self-explanatory. I don't really know what I was trying to say. Something to do with the moves? Maybe something to do with the upgrades? No? I don't think so. Something that people might not know about. I don't know. Well, one thing is, eventually, again, I don't know if you're going to get it like later or not, but you get the grab into triangle move where you have to just hold grab neutrally. You can't move while holding grab because if you move while trying to hold grab, he'll throw the enemy away. Oh yeah, I think of some of the sniper part, but I already talked about all that. Son of a bitch. This is what happens. This is why I need to finish my sentence before I start on another topic. The dodges. That's what it was. It was talking about the dodges. There's L1 to dodge, which is that straight dodge. It's just like a small dash. And then there's, you hold L2 and R2, which holding R2 allows you to, whip out your Fury bar and figure out which, one of the 4 face buttons you're going to use. If you hit that at the same time, you do a dodge roll. And dodge roll has pretty decent iframes. I don't know about the regular dash dodge, like the L1 dash one. In terms of iframes, I don't know if it's really iframe heavy, but I do feel like the dodge roll is actually a much better iframe dodge than the other one. And the third way to do this, the second one, the L2 and R2 one, is you can actually hold, I think you hold R1, I think, and then you do L2. Because while you're holding R1, you're basically looking for somebody to leap onto. You can hit L2 to, dodge while in that, while you're holding that down to, dodge out of the way of enemy attacks that might be coming. So, yeah, here are some of the moves that we're eventually going to learn. And the thing is, with this game, you don't really learn new moves, necessarily, as far as I'm aware. The game says that you kind of do, but I don't really see it. You get a few, you unlock a few abilities, you can do this and that, but you don't really unlock a lot of combo routes. You kind of just end up sticking with, mostly the same route throughout the entire game anyway. So, yeah. Most of this game is relatively just straightforward, go through enemies, platform a little bit, go through enemies, platform a little bit. Sometimes a puzzle here and there. But for the most part, it's just a lot of hacking and slashing mixed in with, platforming and puzzles. So it's just about every other hack and slash in the late 2000s, basically, at this point. And nothing wrong with that, of course. I'm just saying in general. Also, I tend to backtrack just to kind of explore things. And, just because, I might have missed something, and I probably should have cut this part out. I didn't realize it was in there, but it's kind of hard to edit a video that's 2 hours long, and you're just holding down the fast forward button, trying to go through and figure out what's a death and what's not, So, I mean, yes, it's my fault, I know, but I'm just telling you guys how my brain process thinks when it comes to editing. Is just more so holding down the fast forward button and just seeing if something is too slow or seeing if there's a death or whatever or whatever. So, yeah. Also, if you do happen to mess up and you fall off, then that guy does respawn. And that's just going to be a key opponent of every one of these sections like that. They will respawn, so don't worry. Falling off, restarting again, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I wish I would have known a little earlier that elites could be easily killed by spikes. However, I didn't really know that at the time. And, of course, throwing them off cliffs, if there's even a cliff to throw them off of, does help. Oh, something else to talk about with the dodge rolls. You'll see me do it a lot more often when it comes to, the rock titans and stuff. When you start fighting the titan guys, you'll definitely see me do it way more often there. But there's a move where I like to double dodge, where I hit L1 first, and then I hit L2 and R2. Or the L2 dodge roll right after. So, I might just call it that. I actually just make things simple. Now, the regular L1 dodge for this guy, in particular, isn't too bad of a move. Also, yeah, at this point, you basically unlock, finishers, and that's what I'm just testing out. I'm testing the water. Most of everything past the first 3 hits are just gonna be the same-ish slam attack. There's not really much difference. There is, but it's very minute to the point where I don't really think it matters exactly which one you do, as long as you just do one of them, I guess. Slam attacks are not that bad, but only when you're fighting against like small groups of enemies that, can be easily knocked in the air and then eventually, Fury cycloned into, I guess you could say. Because, some of these moves don't hit everybody at once, and some of them do, I don't know. I didn't really use those slam attacks as often as I probably should have. I didn't really think of them that useful. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of the uppercut moves are a lot more useful than just slam ones. Slam ones can still like launch enemies in the air. However, I feel like it's a lot easier just to kind of just do like a spin attack and then knock them up that way. God damn, it's so crazy watching early gameplay of this, like early Chapter 1 gameplay, and seeing what it ends up being. Because enemies start to gain a lot of health. Like, I mean, a ridiculous amount of health to the point where it's just stupid. Oh yeah, right here is a dodge roll thing, and I didn't really realize that at the time. My instinct told me that maybe I should, because there's that other door that also came down, but I didn't really think about it too much. Hell, I'm just surprised I even figured out how to dodge roll to begin with. Oh, Leviathan, that's what they're called. Okay. So, this is the first of many Leviathan fights you're going to have to deal with. So, fuck. These guys work in a couple different ways. So, first of all, that slam attack right there, dodge roll out of the way. That wind up fist attack right there he just did, dodge out of the way. Because essentially, what you want to try to do is, well, one, not get hit. But, two, if you happen to dodge like this, you could, hit R1, do a leap. Let's just say that. You could do a leap attack and land on their shoulder and attack their head. Now, Leviathans have 2 health bars compared to, like, the Titan guys. I forgot what their names are, but there's another variant of these types of big, giant Colossus fights that you do, these mini-bosses, and the other variant doesn't have a second health bar, but these guys do. They have a half health bar, basically. So once you're done with the first half, he's going to armor up, and then you're going to be forced to only attack the head. And I've tried attacking with just, like, aerial attacks. They never really seem to work for me. They might actually work if you just do, square attacks in air and stuff. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think they work. But yeah, most of this fight is relatively simple. Just, dodge whenever you're about to get attacked. And then for the most part, it's pretty much fair game. I don't think any of these moves can be parried. However, the other variant of these mini-boss fights, the one you get to see much later in the game, you can parry a couple of their attacks, strangely enough. So, I haven't really tested it fully, but maybe there's a way you could do it. And something else to kind of keep in mind, too, is that you want to wait for the Leviathan to be out of commission in order to do a leap. You either have to be behind them, or you have to wait for something like that, where like he pretty much just exhausts himself. Him picking up a rock and throwing it, and he try to leap after, it's not going to work. So, like, right there, not going to work. That's not going to happen. But that run-up, and slam attack, yeah, that's going to work perfectly. And then you can only get, like, a certain amount of hits in before they eventually start to get kind of pissed, and then they knock you off. And from now on, I think in the later videos, I'm just going to fast-forward this stuff because, let's be real, this shit is boring. You're doing the same constant repetitive action over and over again, and you're just trying to slice away at such a measly health bar. Not even measly, it's just a bulky health bar with, little damage. It's just annoying. Even with Berserk later on, it's still just irritating to go through this. But yeah, that rock slam, when they slam it right in front of them, that's a move that, well, obviously, you can leap onto. Essentially, think of it this way. If their hands are not doing anything, like they're not playing with themselves or, pocket pull or any of that, if their hands are, preoccupied with something or they're tired or whatever the case, that's a good time as any to kind of go for the leap attack. And, like, right here, for instance, like, that's not a good leap, as you can see, and you get punished for it. You don't get punished too much, though, because it's not a lot of damage, surprisingly, for hard mode. But eventually, later on, that damage is going to add up, and that's not going to be fun to have. But early game, it's not a big deal. Technically, fights with Leviathans anyway are never really a big deal. You get hit a few times, you take a lot of, shield damage, I guess you could call it. But really, realistically, you don't really take that much damage anyway, regardless of how far in the game you are. It's just, it really depends on the amount of enemies that are around the field at the time, and then who and what type of enemy, you happen to be dealing with, that makes it a little bit more irritable, I guess you could say. So yeah, eventually once you slice away at the his health bar and stuff, eventually he'll give up, and these fights are just long. So I'm just gonna save everyone and myself the trouble, and from now on we're just gonna fast forward through every Leviathan fight because this stuff is just ridiculous. Every fight except for maybe like the second variant of them, just to kind of show that one off, to show what they do. And then after that, it's just straight clean, like no more of this shit. no more of this, happy dandy whatever bullshit that I end up going an hour for, because these levels are long for some reason. I don't know why they just don't divide the chapters a little better than this. That's another complaint I have too, is like this game is 5 chapters long, but each chapter is like an hour to like 2 hours long. It's ridiculous. So, I don't know. But yeah, nothing up there. You just push the block inside, and then you grab the dog tag that way. That's the puzzle. So there you go. It took me a little bit to realize what it was, but I was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe, drag it outside, but that's not the case. And then, of course, for this one you have to drag outside in order to continue on. I wish it was more like the God of War 3 side of things, but luckily with this game you don't have to pull those blocks too far. Also, sorry if I do go quiet every once in a while. I mean, God forbid, I'm sure that's what people are probably thinking, like, oh man, I really don't want him to go quiet anytime. But yeah, like, I might go quiet every once in a while. It's either because I'm yawning, because I'm tired, because it's like 11 o'clock at night, or it's because I might not have much to say at that point, because, I hate to say it, but this is a game that's just going to be incredibly repetitive. And that's just what's going to end up being repetitive, at least for me. You guys can always just, skip ahead or not watch a video or two or whatever. Whatever you decide to do, or just not watch it at all, of course. I recommend playing the game yourself, though, because the repetition does kind of, it's a lot better to deal with when you're playing the game instead of just watching probably me play it. Something I wish I would have had the foresight of, and this would have been good to actually just be able to play the game first and then learn these types of things and then go back and then do the guide, but I did not do that, is I kind of wish I would have tried throwing the enemy into the water. Sorry. Oh yeah, I guess I eventually did. It worked. Oh yeah, so combat reflexes. This is something that doesn't really seem to be much of a big deal. As much of a big deal as it, like, seemingly seems like it would be. Hang on, let me scoot up my... You're going to hear the chair squeak a little bit. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I'm just trying to move up it the best I can so I can get comfortable. Every time that you fight enemies and you kill, different variants of enemies, you'll eventually just upgrade your ability to take care of them better. And that's something about the game that I like a lot, though, is... The way the upgrades work is, yeah, you don't really upgrade, you don't really get a lot of new moves, and you don't really get... the best damage from just basic upgrades. But you do have, a small little, skill tree thing with it. I thought the game froze again. I was like, oh, fuck. So, yeah, I like the idea of the reflexes. I think that's kind of neat. But anyway, turret section. I could have cut this part out, but it's fine. It's just the one. It's literally, the only turret section, unless you count the sentinel arm. But, let me move the mic up here real quick. It's gonna be a long video, I gotta sit back and take a sip every once in a while and do something, It's just gonna be a very long, tiring video, especially at the end of this. But I'm trying to be as positive and optimistic as I can be. I'm not angry or anything. Don't worry. I'm just tired, man. It's been a long few days, I can tell you that. I went on a trip in my favorite rocket ship, Little Einsteins. I went on a trip for a while, and then for a good, weekend-ish. And then, yeah, the whole month been preparing for it, so it's just been a nightmare. But anyway, enough about that. It's time to get into the Sabertooth fight, which is pretty fun, actually. I think, it's definitely one of the more fun bosses to deal with. Because you're essentially fighting somebody who's at least close to your combat level. So, whenever he does practically about any punch move. You can parry it and then get some, rage back. That's going to be a common theme for me, though. I've heard that there's ways to, like, cheese bosses and stuff, and I don't particularly know the best way to do it. But if you guys want, whenever I do this video, actually I'm just going to do it probably anyway. I'm going to try to remember, but there's a Wolverine hard mode no upgrade run video on this website, YouTube, that, as far as I'm aware, I've heard, he does a lot of boss cheeses and stuff, so you could probably check it out there. And I'll link the video in the description below to give him credit, or give them credit, whoever it is, and, what have you. I didn't really use any of the stuff they did. I just kind of used their video guide to kind of keep an idea of where the chapters are, because I don't know. There's nothing that really explicitly says the chapter names, unless it's just in the replay mission thing, but I don't know. But yeah, after the first health bar, you just pretty much can just, go back to another health bar, and then right there, that does a lot of good damage. I don't know exactly how you're supposed to get that to happen. I think just a parry is enough to work. Yeah, I think if you just parry him right near that pole, it'll be enough to... Ooh. Oh, man, my stomach's starting to hurt all of a sudden. Yeah. Yeah, parry him right there, and you'll get that attack, so... Keep that in mind. It's a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as a pendulum swing. Anyway. Now we're on to, phase 3, and again, like I said, a lot of his attacks can be relatively somewhat parried. I'd recommend trying to parry for, like, flurry attacks, like, wait those out, or just keep mashing, the block button until you eventually get a parry. That's practically what I do. I'm going to sit up, because I think holding my stomach is what's going to kill me here. I bought a frozen cappuccino, so... Oh, I bought a frappuccino, basically. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with my stomach right now. I drank that motherfucking thing, and now I feel the effects of it. And if it gets any worse throughout this video, I'm just going to cut the commentary and come back. Which, to be fair, I could probably just do that anyway. I could always just stop the commentary halfway through the video and come back and then just continue the video. It's not like it's a big deal. But yeah, parries on bosses are like a really big thing when it comes to this game. If you can parry a boss pretty well, then you'll definitely get like a nice bit of chunk of rage orbs out of it, and then you can use that to kind of just, carry on from there, and then, defeat the boss. Yeah, I think for these videos, that's going to be the exception. I think for these videos, unless for some reason I do the whole thing in like the hour or two or whatever it takes, I'm actually just going to do commentary for about half of it, and then we'll come back and then do commentary for the rest of it. So once this boss fight is over with, I'm going to continue commentary from that, maybe like tomorrow or something. So yeah, this will be a first for Hardcorean, but why not? So yeah, I defeat Sabretooth, yada yada yada, and then we level up, and then BRB. Okay, so now we're back, and now we're doing, the Weapon X facility, and sorry for that weird cut. It's going to take me some time getting used to this whole new way of handling commentary now, but yeah, we're basically another day in, and I don't remember everything I said. We just got done doing the Sabretooth fight, and now we're going to be doing the rest of the facility. I think from here on out, should just be all of it, and no, jungle sequences or anything like that. I don't remember there being a boss fight specifically, but yeah. Something that we eventually do learn, thankfully, from this mission particularly, because now we have to get our powers back eventually. We learned the ability of Berserk, which allows you to do like extra damage over like a certain amount of time. Of course, you can upgrade that to have the duration last a little bit longer. You could also upgrade, I think, there's a few other things you can upgrade with it. Yeah, damage. Damage is one of them. You can upgrade your healing to make it a little bit more consistent. I don't remember if I think I bought level 2 blades right there. Yeah, I have level 2 claws right now. Okay. I'm just checking to see if there's like any new moves that you get, which I don't know if it really is. I don't think so. Triangle, hold, circle. I never even did that one. I kind of forgot about that actually being a thing. Oops. Oh well. Let's see. Yeah, when it comes to this game, I don't think there really is a lot of things you can do. You can do like dodge roll attacks, like you can dodge and then go for like square and triangle and what have you, but I think that's if you dodge roll over enemies and what have you. So yeah, that completes that little fight, but of course, every time there's a fight, there's always going to be at least another few packs of enemies that are going to come to play. And I do want to make mention real quick, just in case anybody happens to find this game relatively boring to watch, if you happen to, then I 100% don't blame you. But this is definitely one of those games that I highly recommend that you give a shot, especially if you're into hack and slash games, because, you know, it may not look like it from my point of view or my gameplay experience, but I do believe that Wolverine has a lot of fun aspects to it. And, you know, it definitely requires somebody to be able to play it to get that feel. A lot of hack and slashes do kind of require a sort of, you know, personal touch to it to kind of make you into it. And that's typically why with games such as like Final Fantasy 16, and when I played the demo of it, I didn't really much care for it. And because I kept hearing people say like, oh, it's just like Devil May Cry. It's just like Devil May Cry. It's so cool like Devil May Cry. And then I play it, and it's nothing like Devil May Cry. I mean, yeah, sure, it may look fancy and flashy from the videos and stuff, and you see all these videos, you know, the mad combos, you know what I'm talking about. You see all those. This is no hate toward Final Fantasy 16. I'm just giving you guys an example of experiencing something myself. And granted, the demo doesn't do the best job at showcasing every weapon or every situation, but as far as I'm aware from watching the video, like, yeah, it looks like it has weapon switching on command. If that's even a thing, I don't know. But other than that, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be, you know, the one-to-one Devil May Cry type feeling that everybody keeps talking about. And when I played the demo, I didn't really much care for the combat. I thought it was okay as an action RPG, but it's just not for me. There's too much walking around. That might sound a little douchey, but I've gotten to the point now, I've gotten extremely tired of new games doing that. Also, this is the new variant of the machete guy. It's basically the same one as the jungle variant. This is just a weapon facility version of him. They don't really add much anything. I don't think they really add much new stuff to them at all, really. I mean, the only thing that I can think of in terms of machete guys that get new is the jungle fire machete. Yeah, that guy definitely gets like an added, you know, buff and upgrade. These guys, not much. Maybe they're a little bit more tanky than the last guys, but as far as I'm aware, I think they're just the same variant, and you just do the same things. So the best way to defeat machetes, since, you know, this is at least a different day and I can actually explain things, I mentioned before, but, you know, parry system, you know, that works wonders. And of course, you know, when an enemy is red, you can press triangle to get a quick kill, or whatever it's called, or execution or whatever. But I've never found that too useful. It seems like sometimes it doesn't work, so I don't know if that's a me problem or if that's just the game problem. I have no idea. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, back to bitching about things. I've grown so tired of all these new games. I don't mean to bitch. I bitch about this all the time, but when I start bitching about modern games, you know, it just doesn't stop. So I just don't like how almost every game has to have a walk and talk section now. Every game has to stop the gameplay in order to, you know, feed you into things that could be done and accomplished by just measly running to that section, but, you know, or teleporting the player and just getting a cutscene or something. I don't know. And that's not to say, like, I have to have action at all times. I mean, there's, you know, a lot of games that I play, they're action games that have, you know, cutscenes, especially ones that can't be skipped. God of War being one of them. And, yeah, that does kind of suck, but I already like God of War enough, so it's not a big deal. But, you know, it's not that I don't like to watch cutscenes or read things, you know. Oh, yeah, so something else that I think I start doing more often, real quick, just to say this before I get too far off topic, is that, well, one, when there's a group of enemies, I do the Fury. I do the, you know, R2 square. But one thing you'll see me do quite often is when I launch an enemy there and I press circle to grab them and throw them back on the ground. Also, with parries, if an enemy parries your attack, they start to slow down time, giving you ample enough time to kind of just react and parry back. So, yeah, that's basically it for that fight. Of course, we level up, get an extra few points of health, which, again, I don't really feel like it matters that much, but still. So, yeah. But yeah, modern games just, I don't know, man, they just don't appeal to me anymore, because it's just, I don't know. Like, I was going to say, like, you know, right now, I need to get back to it before I left for vacation. You know, I've been reading through a visual novel, so it's not like, you know, reading or even just having no gameplay is a bad thing. It's just that if my game is a hack and slash, I kind of expect it to be a hack and slash and give me, you know, the feeling of at least hacking and slashing. And if you're going to have cutscenes, why not just make them a little bit more interactive? something akin to Metal Gear Rising, which is what I used to love about Platinum back in the day. A lot of their action combat sequences were usually done, theatrically, I guess you could say, where you just kind of felt that everything was over the top and you were in the cutscene. Except for obvious cutscenes, that are actually real cutscenes, but when you're fighting Metal Gear Ray, for example, like, you definitely feel that you're at least immersed in that combat sequence. Granted, watching me play this right now, with Wolverine, like, there's nothing really like that at all. You don't really ever get that feeling, except for maybe boss fights, which I will praise. I do think the boss fights in this game are actually pretty good, except for the final boss. I didn't really care too much for the final boss. It just felt like it could have been a bit bigger and better, but it just wasn't. So, but then again, if we're going by the movie, it had to happen that way. I mean, there's no other choice, really. So, can't really blame the game for that one. But for the most part, Sabretooth fights are pretty fun. Eventually you fight the Blob. Again, I probably won't spoil the final boss. It's not like it really matters, but, why not? So yeah, right there, I think that was an execution, I believe. Again, I don't know how to activate those. It says press triangle when enemy is near death, but I don't know how far near death it has to be. Does it have to be when they're glowing red? Does it have to be when they are literally close to dying? It could be all sorts of things. At this point, I'm starting to feel like maybe I don't want to do commentary. Maybe I just want to just let the rest of the video just play out, because it's just going to be the same stuff over and over again. But, to be fair, I've stuck out longer videos than this before, and, I've recorded way longer before, and all technicality, a little bit more boring before. It was definitely fun playing it, but, man, watching it through again, it hurts. It hurts a little bit. Wait till we get to probably, like, the next guide or something, when things will probably pick up. Not to say that this one's going to be bad. I'm just saying in general, like, if you're into it for, maybe say, like, my commentary or something, then, keep in mind that this one might be a little bit more lackluster than some. But if you don't like my commentary, just like my gameplay, then turn off the volume and just watch it that way. So this room, we're going to start spawning in, I think they were called Goliaths, right? And Goliaths are some of the worst enemies to deal with, and it's mainly because of the fact that you have to use your senses to find them. Because, as annoying as it sounds, relying on your senses is going to become very, very important, especially later on in the game. Because the idea is when they're invisible, they just seem, for some strange, odd reason, to be able to shoot you more consistently than when they're found. I don't know if that's just because the game wants you to use it. And something else, too, is like it's a lot harder to kind of get in a leap because they just shotgun you. And because they're shotgunners, they just, tend to just, rack you a few shells in the face before you can even, like, dodge into them or even try to go for them. But yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's highly recommended that you rely on your feral senses for this, because, not only are they invisible, but also really irritating to deal with. Now, something I didn't get to do, because at the time I didn't really know that I could rely on it too well, is when you grab a Goliath and you press triangle, instead of, pressing triangle and then waiting for the triangle thing to do, like, the quick kill move when your claws, glow. And you remember, you have to grab and then wait, which is something I start to learn later on. I think it's like chapter 2 I start to learn about that stuff. So, quick kills, you grab the enemy, and then for the Goliaths, you just keep mashing triangle because you're basically putting the shotgun closer to their head, and then you're going to blow off their head with the shotgun, of course. So, they get you a nice hefty amount of points for it, because eventually the game starts to give access to rating system, which is not a real thing as far as I'm aware. It seems to say like that it has like a rating system, but it's not like fully there either, so I don't know how that really plays out fully. But something that can happen is if you kill enemies consistently, you'll eventually start to add up experience points by percentage. So like right now, I'm only gaining like 100% of the experience from a kill, but if I was to kill somebody else, I would get like 110. kill somebody else, get like 120, kill somebody else 30, 40. And I think it only goes up to 140, and then after that, you're just stuck at 140, and then every kill from then on is going to get like an extra 40% for experience points. Which, is really good to have. Now, they eventually say that, I don't think it's a rating system, I think it just depends on the kill. And I'm not exactly sure 100% how it works. Yeah, right here, that's what I'm trying to figure out the grab triangle thing. Because I keep thinking you're supposed to hold it. But, no, you don't hold it. You just press triangle when it glows. It took me a good minute to figure this out. I'm sorry. I forgot that this was in this chapter. Again, I was kind of just editing through and not really paying that much attention to it. But I will get better at that stuff later. Don't worry. Yeah, like right here. Like, I eventually figured it out. It's pretty cool. It's pretty brutal. I like it. But, yeah. So, using that for quick kills is really nice. I think you have iframes while you're inside the animation anyway. Like, when you're gonna grab them. I don't know if enemies can actually knock you out of it. Wendigo, that's what they're called. Okay. But yeah, so this is the next fight. This is basically the next giant fight. He doesn't have a half phase. That attack right there that glows, those dust attacks, you can basically parry. But I don't learn that until later, and I just rely on Berserk to kind of just, get health back and just do as much damage as I possibly can. Now, in terms of when to leap onto him, it's not as obvious with like the Leviathan. But essentially things like that where he attacks like with his big arm and he just swings around should be enough time. And plus, speaking of time, you have more than enough time to stay on him and grab a lot of damage. When he does that spark thing, he's going to slam twice, jump over that, or at least just stay as far away as you possibly can. And then just avoid that slam. So yeah, anyway, back to the experience talk. So basically, if you kill enemies in a specific way, I don't know exactly how specific you have to be. I would say, like, try to, use different combos within your own combo. Or if you're just like me, just go for kills and just throw them on spikes and stuff. I don't think it really matters, to be fair. By the way, Fury attacks do not keep you in iframes. I just do that because, I don't know, I'm dumb. So, not that you're dumb if you do it. I'm just saying that, for me, it wasn't really a decision that I probably should have. Well, I probably could have thought more, about. I could have went for Berserk instead. But yeah, so if you kill them, like, enemies in a certain way, or, like, stylishly, I guess, you get a few more points. It's not very obvious that works. Because you kind of have to pay more attention to your XP bar than you really do anything else. So, just fair warning that's a thing that eventually will come up. The game will tell you, like, when it comes up. The game basically tells you pretty much every opportunity that something new arises. And, yeah. And, of course, with the dodging, this enemy is a lot easier to dodge than, say, like, the Leviathan itself. Just because, like, for some odd reason, a lot of these attacks just don't seem to be as, AoE heavy, I guess. He seems more like the enemy variant type that's more focused on, like, just, wide punches and stuff. And also, fair warning, if you happen to be on top of a Wendigo, you can get knocked off him by his other buddies if they happen to have buddies around. So, do keep that in mind when you're fighting multiples, that there is the possibility you could get knocked off. And that'd be very unfortunate. So, yeah, another hallway, and just go for Berserk. If you have the rage to Berserk, I'd say just use it as much as you can. If you want to be flashy and try to show off, and just be cool or whatever, like I do sometimes, then you could always just try to use any of the other Fury moves that you eventually learn and get. That move right there, that uppercut move I just did, is a dodge triangle move, and it just happens, unfortunately, sometimes, because I dodge and press triangle because I'm trying to do something, but it don't work. Oh, man. Sorry, folks, I'm tired, so yeah, the commentary might be a little bit less than usual. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I was just mashing X, and it looked like for some reason that the game was just breaking. Okay, so now we've lost our powers, and now we have to go get them back. So we have to do a stealth section, which is, oddly enough, not much of a stealth section. Well, we didn't lose our powers, we just more so lost our regenerative abilities. So, basically, yeah, now we have to, figure our way out and stuff. And again, the stealth sections they're nothing. Like don't think of this as like Batman Arkham, where stealth sections are pretty good. But even then, the unfortunate part about Batman Arkham though is those stealth sections are usually done as like their own particular section instead of just being able to kind of mix and match the two. Usually you're kind of stuck in combat or you're stuck doing stealth. So, yeah. Much like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, where that's kind of like the same case, where you're playing, Spider-Man Noir and you're pretty much just doing nothing but stealth sections. Like, you can use combat to get out of, a situation that you might have gotten yourself into, but typically a lot of the time, it's better just to stealth. Maybe I'm crazy, but something I've been thinking about for a while is I would love to see a Batman game being made by like Platinum Games or something. At least like a Batman beat 'em up, like a modern beat 'em up. I just want to kind of see that. That doesn't need to go down the Arkham lane. But if they were to do one, I mean, to be fair, Arkham is relatively one of the best versions of Batman games that we have, along with, in my opinion, I think, Batman for Super Nintendo was also pretty good. Batman Returns. It's also a pretty good, beat 'em up game. I do wish it was 2-player, though, but I don't think it is. But, yeah. As a beat 'em up game, and as a Batman game, it's pretty cool. We've had, tons of Batman games, of course, but in my opinion, I still feel like Arkham is what people kind of see, and even myself, I kind of see it as, like, the pinnacle of what Batman games could, and sometimes to an extent should be. And that's, of course, mixing stealth and combat into one game. However, at least with Arkham Asylum, the combat and the stealth sections were not mixed. They weren't really interplaced, or whatever the word is. I'm trying to think. They weren't, spliced together. Actually, same thing with Batman Arkham City, which reminds me, I don't think I've ever done anything past Arkham Asylum on this channel. It's mainly because I just don't like much of the games past Asylum. Like, I'm okay with City. City's fine. I just don't like it that much. I think it's good. I just don't, particularly like it as much as I like Asylum. I just kind of like more of the... It's going to sound weird, but I kind of like more of the linear aspect of Asylum, the Metroidvania feel to it. And then Origins was alright. Could have been worse, could have been better. The multiplayer was pretty fun. I'm usually pretty positive about multiplayer stuff in general, because if you got a multiplayer that at least works functionally, then I can have a good time with it. I like Gotham City Imposters. I haven't played that in a while, but I like that. I used to play it a little bit. And then Arkham... I haven't played Blackgate yet. Sorry, I'm basically yawning. I woke up extremely late, and I'm pissed off at myself for that. I woke up late yesterday, too, and I'm pissed. I think I woke up late on Wednesday. That's what it was. I don't know, man. I don't remember. I don't even know what the day is. The day should be Friday, I think. I don't know. I'm losing track of time, man. Things are happening. I'm getting bored, I'm getting restless, and I'm just going places and doing things as much as I can, because that's just what I do. You come back from vacation, and all that stuff just comes right back to you and hits you hard, and you're like, oh, fuck, here we go again. The brain bugs. The brain bugs you can't get rid of. Like, the feeling of having to always do something at every, corner. Which, speaking of doing things, just kind of throw it out there. I did stop my God of War marathon, and I'm mainly doing it for my own good. It's because I feel that if I force myself to do the God of War marathon to finish it, then I'm just not going to enjoy it. Because I was playing God of War 3, and I just was not having fun at all. So, yeah, it's not that God of War 3 is bad by any means. It's just that I really don't feel like playing it. I really wanted to get to like Ghost of Sparta and stuff, but I just decided to do that one. But anyway, back to Batman Arkham real quick. I didn't really care much for Night. I never even beat Night yet. I just don't like it. don't care. And I remember tons of people praising the game and saying it was like, one of the best games out there. But now all of a sudden people have changed around and now they're like, okay, it wasn't that good. And again, it's not that it's bad. I could have fun with it. I think it has some good ideas to it. The Batmobile is a pretty cool idea to use around, Got to see that, but I don't know. But speaking of, making a Batman game, if it were me letting, Platinum Games or telling them or, giving them ideas or whatever, just, I don't know, just because in this hypothetical situation, for me, it would be more like I want to have, like, Batman's combat be more so suited to, like, Platinum Games combat, where it's a lot more energetic and, a little bit more unrealistic, a little bit more anime fight type thing, but while also trying to be a little bit more realistic at the same time and just not going too far. Like, not trying to go Kingdom Hearts, but be kind of close to, say, I don't know, Bayonetta-ish. You don't have to you could do air combos, it's fine. You get what I'm saying. Like, just tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit unrealistic. Also, this part took me forever to figure out. I don't know what's wrong with me. But it was mainly the upstairs section. I couldn't figure out that I was supposed to, push a button and push the shield back. But I did figure out this puzzle eventually. It took like a good solid 10, 20 minutes to do it. But besides the Platinum combat, let's say hypothetically that this Platinum Games was working with a different company. Maybe the different other company or even Platinum themselves could maybe sort of incorporate, stealth sections in between, the combat. Like, you can just exit combat and go for stealth if you wanted to. But then again, that also means, like, Batman could get shot, and that's probably something he doesn't want to do. But then again, if this is a type of game, just add a parry. I don't know. Fuck, Just do whatever to an extent. And then on top of that, do I want it to be open world? That's another tricky one, too. Because, like, if we're going for, like, a full-on Batman game, it would probably have to have, detective vision, or at least detective puzzle-solving stuff alongside open-world Batmobile, kind of stuff. And that's the thing that I think is probably hard. And, I'm no game developer. God forbid I've tried, but game development's hard. I also don't have anybody to really rely on when it comes to, other stuff. It'd just be like it's just a one-man army at that point. I'm just a one-man guy, trying to make things work. Because that's just how everything always ends up in life, I guess. As you know, fuck friends, right? I don't know why I bothered even with the turret. I mean, I got a little rage back from it. It's not like it's a big deal. You don't really get experience. But yeah, I don't know. Just a Batman game would probably have to be quite expensive if they were going to, like, try to make it like Batman Arkham without having the Arkham combat. Because a lot of people, or I don't know if it's a lot of people, but I just like saying that just because, I've heard from some people, not a lot of people, but some people I've heard of, or, talked to in real life, they say that, Arkham just doesn't have the combat that they want. It's just, it's more of like a dance. And, that's how I see it. It's more like a dance sometimes. But when you really kind of get into it, it feels pretty good because it has a rhythm to it. But it's not your normal run-of-the-mill God of War beat 'em up type thing. It really is. Batman is, in some sense, I guess you could say, a rhythm game. Some way, shape, or form. Speaking of dances, that's what we're doing with Wolverine. Which, now that I mention it, I kind of forgot that we were getting an Insomniac Games Wolverine game. Which, I did play the Spider-Man one. I did play Spider-Man. And I remember liking it a lot at first. But, man, that second playthrough killed me. I just immediately dropped everything and just hated it. I didn't like it anymore. And then I tried playing Miles Morales because I was like, well, maybe that might be better because you're playing Miles for one. And I like Miles. And then on top of that, you're also getting to play, with Venom powers and stuff. But then it's just the same shit, and it's like, oh my god, it's the same Arkham style shit again. And I like Spider-Man, but I don't really. This is gonna sound weird. I like Spider-Man, but I don't really like the open world type stuff either. I'm more so like a linear type guy than anything, and honestly, that's why I think Shattered Dimensions is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man games to play. A Friend or Foe is fine, but it's too much like Ultimate Alliance. That's one thing that kind of bugs me. It's a little bit hard to kind of shake off that feeling that's basically just the same thing. It might even be... I don't even know if it's made by the same people. It might be, but I don't know. But yeah, we're going to be getting a Wolverine game, so I'm kind of hoping that maybe, just maybe, I'm praying that it will be just different from the Spider-Man game. I want it to not be an open world focused Batman Arkham style combat situation again. It's not that Spider-Man didn't work with it. It's not that Batman Arkham doesn't work with that with that flow. It's just that I want something different. I kind of want a little bit more close quarters Wolverine X-Men Origins combat with just much more going on for it. A little bit more going on for it. Open world is one thing I can deal with, but I don't know if Wolverine would really work like that. I don't know. Now, this is something else I would kind of like to see, is because of the way that Marvel Comics tends to kind of work. It'd be kind of really cool, and this is just my own scenario I'm coming up with. Like, what if you can actually fight the Hulk or something, in the Wolverine game, and you could maybe like fight Deadpool, like as in new Deadpool, like, well, not new, but you know what I mean, like the one that the fuck am I talking about? The non-Origins Wolverine Deadpool. I spoiled everything. Who cares? Whatever. Who gives a shit? There you go. If you caught on to that, then you caught on. But so, my bad. Anyway, what if you could fight like just regular run of the mill, any other superhero? Because Wolverine is, theoretically pretty strong in a lot of ways. But then again, you have tons of other Marvel superheroes who could probably best him, but I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of cool if they instead took this Wolverine game and didn't make it like an origin story, but they instead made it their own, just in-universe game. Whether it be only pertain to Wolverine, or only pertain to like X-Men itself, or maybe even possibly all of Marvel together, and maybe he kills so many different superheroes. But then again, they might not do that because of... Oh, it's going to be rated M game, so I don't know. I was going to say because of kids and stuff, because, a lot of kids tend to kind of like the Marvel movies and such, unfortunately, but that's just how it is. And it seems that a lot of the Marvel Marvel movie directors and stuff have seen to take notice of their demographic, which is smart to do that. It's not that that's a bad thing, because they're just doing what they do, what they know they can do. And they seem to be kind of more so trying to rely on more of that casual crowd of things. And not that that's a huge problem. That has its spot. But I kind of want to see more weird. I want to see more out there movies, personally. It's the same way I feel about games and just manga and all other kinds of stuff that I delve into. I'm just so tired of this cookie cutter shit. Where every game nowadays has to be a walk and talk. Where every fucking movie nowadays has to be like trying to be like Marvel. Where it's all just the same repetitive quips after quips and the same tired tropes over and over again. And then when it comes to manga, I'm just tired of shonen. I've gotten so sick of shonen shit. I've always been sick of shonen. Just hard shonen. I have respect for it, but I'm talking about like the ones that just, the modern shonen where they're trying to be too much. I don't know. Yeah. I'm fine with like, Toriko and Dragon Ball and stuff. Like, those can exist. I have my problem with Dragon Ball, but, it can exist for what it's worth. But, yeah. So, I think right here, we're basically trying to get our feral senses back. But as you can see, it's a lot harder to kind of deal with the Goliaths, the invisible guys themselves. Dodge rolling over the enemy could work if you're lucky enough to actually land into one. Of course, as you can see, they do eventually show up. And no, I don't think you can block their attacks. I think you're pretty much just forced to be stuck with it. Now, do I have any tips and tricks on how to deal with this fight in particular, because you're getting basically knocked around? Well, one, you can see where they're walking out in the water. But if you're starting to die, I'd say run from one side of the room to the other and just get as far away as you possibly can and then just re-heal. And not worry too much about, trying to fight them. I got lucky and got a level up, so that worked out wonders. But if you happen to have Berserk, or if you die and you get, full rage from this, Berserk will also kind of just help a little bit. And really, just realistically, just attack anywhere. Just try to be in the middle and attack anywhere you possibly can. And that should, in theory, be just enough to eventually take them out. Because this part is just stupid. It's dumb and annoying. Grenades everywhere, you get shotgun blasted everywhere, and yada yada yada. Also, I do want to say, don't take my opinions on things to heart. I'm not trying to hate on anybody's stuff. I'm not trying to make anybody look like an idiot. If anybody does look like an idiot, it'd be me. I'm just saying that I personally am not the biggest fan of the way that things have been going for, media and such. And then, again, back to manga stuff, I liked, Fist of the North Star. It got a little bit repetitive, but, I read it, and I liked it. I also, read, I still gotta get caught up on the latest chapters, but, JoJo, of course, that's my favorite shonen. I haven't really kept up much with One Punch Man, but I just feel like a lot of things, like these new modern shonens are trying to... They're definitely trying to be different, which is good, of course, but they also feel like they're relying on too much of the same, just, I don't know, tired shit, I guess. It's hard to explain, but they just get repetitive, and they just try to be edgy, and then it just doesn't work. Because I've read edgy shit, and, when somebody tells me that they found this new cool manga, and it's really edgy, but then they say it's a shonen manga, I'm just thinking, well, then it's not going to be as edgy as I want it to be then. That's the problem, because I like my edge, and then we don't really get that, do we? And then they try to explain to you, oh, well, this person gets decapitated or whatever. Okay. I've read far worse than that. I've read way worse than that. That's just baby shit at that point. If you guys are wondering what types of, if you guys are interested in horror mangas, I have to go remember the hell they're called. But, give me 1 second. There's a name of one. I forget what it's called. That I read. It was kind of... What the fuck was the name of it? That's not it. Was it A Fear of Puppets? I don't know. There's a manga that has, it's a phobia. Something phobia. Son of a bitch. Hold on. This is gonna sound weird, but it's a horror manga about oh, there it is. Yeah, Pygmalion. I wouldn't say it was the most fucked up thing, I guess, but it's pretty damn brutal-ish, edgy. It's really edgy. I'll say that. It's really edgy. It's not special, but it's definitely okay. It's about mascots turning into horror monsters and killing people, and some guy dies by a mascot killing with his dick. It's some weird shit. This is new. I've never heard of this before. Something called Gaiju. I've never heard of this. I've wanted to read Green Worlds before, but I never did. Giant Island, the Island of Giant Insects. I think I've heard of that one. There's one also called Creature! ! I'm just checking out things. These are new to me. That's a pretty cool cover. I'm gonna go check this one out. There's another one it's not really edgy, but it's a nice horror story manga. It's called PTSD Radio. It's pretty cool. And start getting out of this. I think I remember hearing about that one. Of course, now speaking of edgy stuff, this one is completely edge. This is just the type of edge that I don't like, but at the same time, I just enjoyed the story. So I guess me shitting on whatever I shit on before doesn't really make any sense. But hey, hypocrites be hypocriting, right? Also, yeah, make sure you throw enemies off the platforms and just throw them into obstacles and stuff. You'll be all right. So I'm a huge fan of the Magical Girl Apocalypse series. And I say series because there's at least, I think, 3. But there's one of them I haven't been able to check out because I think it was just excuse me, Japanese only at the time. And it was like a crossover collab thing with, well, in Japan, I think it's called, Maha Shoujo of the End. And the sequel to it was Magical Girl Sight. And I say it's a sequel because it basically just is. It practically is. It's a spiritual successor while also being a sequel. So I don't want to spoil things for anybody that wanted to know. But that's one of my favorite mangas in general, just because I like the story a lot and I like the art and a lot of the edge. I feel like a lot of it worked for me. Yes, it does have the edge that I think is kind of stupid and silly, but at the same time, I didn't like it a lot. And there was another manga I read. I can't remember the goddamn name of it. I have to go through my pictures and look because I actually took pictures of it. It's an old... It's sort of... I wouldn't say it's old, but... It's deep in my camera somewhere. Starts with an M. I forget what it's called, but I never got to finish it because at the time, the manga site that I went to check it out wasn't updated for chapters and stuff. It's on my phone somewhere, so just give me a minute here. Oh, motherfucker. I remember the name, too. I saw it, and then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what it's called. And then here I am, and I completely forgot about it. Oh, yeah, one of my favorite Tanya manga shots back there. That looks pretty good. I like, for Yocho Senki, I like, Tanya's design in the manga a lot. I think it's really cool looking. That's another one of my favorite. Oh, yeah, also Devilman's pretty good, too. What the fuck is it? I also tried reading Soul Liquid Chambers and didn't really care. Sorry. That was another one I remember that I forgot that I have. I have one of them somewhere on that shelf. I think I have like the first one or something like that. The first. I also did read Gleipnir, but then it got animated, and then everyone started talking about it, and it just made me unhappy. And I said, this. I mean, well, it wasn't really that good of a manga anyway, but it was all right. Dota Hedora, that's another one I really like. That's not really like gory or anything or edgy, but it's close to it. I guess it's dark humor. It's a dark comedy in a way, and I still gotta read Die Dark at some point. Like me just talking about fucking anything and everything, just because this is just the same shit over and over again. It's just fight after fight. This is probably what most of the videos are probably gonna end up being, honestly. So just keep in mind that that's probably what's gonna happen. Oh yeah, so the shield guys, just dodge roll over them. Yeah, dodge roll over them, and then let's check this out. Holy shit. No, this feels like the type of manga that's not gonna get like too crazy. But I don't know. Maybe it will. I need to hurry up and look at things so I can figure out what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, I also like Magical Girl stuff too. So yeah, my opinions are very invalid on everything. What the fuck is this goddamn page? Nope. I also do like cute stuff too, so don't think I just read only Edge. Here it was. Well, that doesn't give me the name of it. Oh yeah, Cutie. There's QT something. I forget the name of it. It has like a really weird spelling to it. It's like QT. Cutie Mutie, that's what it was. Yeah. Good thing I can read hiragana. Yeah, Cutie Mutie. That's what. Yeah, it's like QTMT. That's like a really weird M, and it's a bit dark. I don't remember everything about it, but I remember like reading a little bit about it and thinking it was pretty alright. But then the chapters stopped. I was like, didn't read anymore. And then speaking of things that stopped, when I was reading Gal Cleaning, that one turned dark because the author couldn't write on it anymore. The editors or whatever, the publisher stopped him from making any more. And then he decided to go out with a bang, I guess, and then just stop around like chapter 8. It's horrible. It's horrible watching somebody with artistic ability, and wanting to make a series that was relatively cute and just get completely destroyed, by the publisher or whatever, and then just lose everything. And it just sucks, man. But that's how the world is. The world has teeth, so they say. But yeah, once again, you gotta find another Wendigo. When to go. Why did I say that for? This is gonna sound really sad, but every time I think of Wendigos, I think of Until Dawn, and I apologize for anybody that might have gotten flashbacks. Or flash banged from that, I should say. But yeah, I always think about that game. I never got to play it. I mostly just watched somebody play it, and I just remember kind of thinking it was alright, but also kind of wasn't really that interested at the same time. I don't know. I like my horror stuff, but I like horror stuff when it's done well. Usually I kind of like more uncanny and monster stuff. So if people were like, trying to recommend me something, then just regular run-of-the-mill thrillers and stuff might not always cut it. Depends on, the story and stuff. Depends on a lot of things, really. I like twists, too. But usually, when it comes to monster movies, I especially like the ones that are really uncanny looking. There's like a Korean movie. I believe its name is called Sweet Home, and that one's pretty cool because it has like some really, really frightening looking monsters, and I think that's just neat. I like that idea of people just creating these really weird, vivid looking creatures. It's the same thing with horror games too. Like I feel like if you're gonna get me, like I get scared of playing a horror game no matter what. Like if there's a jump scare, I'm gonna jump. That's just gonna happen. But personally for me, I feel like the experience would be a lot better if it was just less than just jump scares. And that's kind of like why I liked the My House.wad when I played that before it became I played it even when it was popular too because, well, I wanted to dip my toes in that popularity a little bit too, not gonna lie. So it is kind of weird how it became popular, like a fucking Doom mod all of a sudden did. It became big. And it's one of those ones where like I played it for a bit, when it came out, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then it became popular, and then I was like, you know what, I want to get back into this. And then I wanted to learn more about it. Like it just kept, enriching me and stuff. I'm not trying to. I guess I am trying to be a gatekeeper at the same time, but I don't know. Hopefully that. Yeah, just ignore me then. But yeah, My House is pretty cool. I recommend playing it if you have, GZ Doom or whatever. It's definitely recommended. It's pretty cool. It's not jump scare heavy. For those that are worried about like getting scared, it doesn't really have jump scare. It does have jump scare noises, but it's nothing I would say like it's turn off the game panicky type. Because they're just regular Doom monsters. They just happen to make a noise at like the worst time, and that always scares the crap out of me. But usually when you're going through places, like 95% of the game, there's no real like jump scares. So don't fret. But yeah, something like that where like the experience is less about the scare and more about the story and unfolding things together was kind of neat. It's, I guess in a way, really bad comparison nowadays, but back then it would have been okay. When Five Nights at Freddy's was a big thing when that was coming out. And the mystery behind it was so interesting, and the designs of the characters were so uncanny, and everything was just so scary. And yeah, it was jump scare heavy, of course, because that's just how the gameplay worked. It worked around jump scares. But you only really get jump scared if you go for it yourself, if you end up messing up or whatever. But yeah, there's also like the doors, you see them through the doors, but eventually you kind of get used to it. You kind of just figure that they're going to be there. Like at first, the jump scares are there, but then eventually they kind of lighten up a little bit for you personally, of course. You're kind of just getting used to them. But I think that's definitely... I personally believe that FNAF 1 was a decently made game, regardless of what people think of FNAF nowadays. I definitely think that it was handled pretty well. And it started off pretty well, and it definitely gave us something interesting to talk about. And gave us something interesting to kind of look into. But then, not only did we get like a ton of different, FNAF clones themselves, which is just going to happen, we also ended up getting FNAF to clone itself to the point where it became just irritating to deal with and too much all the time, and just I stopped caring. This might sound a little lame, and I think this is a huge problem with me just in general, is I'm more of a fan of things that don't end. Things that have a story that could be... I mean, I'm fine with stories that end. I'm fine with endings. It's just that, you know, if you're making a horror series, I kind of like the idea of some things just being untold. Something that, you know, players or viewers or whatever... I didn't even notice that guy in the bottom left was on fire. I didn't even see him until now. But yeah, you know, something that kind of keeps the audience engaged outside of everything, you know, once everything's finished, you know, keep people guessing. But nowadays, I feel like with FNAF, I'm not even 100% sure on this, I'm just kind of talking my ass, but I feel like we probably already have most, if not all the answers, right? I don't know. And that, to me, just kind of ruins the story just a tad. Because I kind of miss the days when you could just go watch videos and then, I don't know, MatPat or whatever would show up. And then he'd be like, yeah, let's talk about FNAF and what happens in FNAF for the week. And then it was a cool experience. Regardless of it being MatPat or not. I mean, you know, whoever you watched or whatever you watched, just, you know, watching videos about, you know, learning new things and stuff. It just was fun. But then once you eventually get to that destination, you know, when you finally arrive, it just sucks. Because, in my opinion, lead up usually never has a good payoff, unless your lead up is small enough to make up for that, or your payoff is, in some cases, big enough. Yeah, but I feel like if you're making a horror franchise that's this huge, that's a ton of buildup. Like, that's a ton of buildup. Only for it to just kind of somewhat fall flat-ish. You know, it just, I don't know. Regardless of what happens, I can't wait for the next FNAF game to be, like, Fall Guys or something. Which is kind of funny seeing Grand Blue Rising, you know, versus Rising. I like fighting games, so of course I keep up with that stuff. But yeah, I guess apparently that's going to be a new game instead of just an update. Sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, they're going to have their own Fall Guys Battle Royale type thing in it or whatever. Which is neat, you know, as a concept. It's fine for fighting games because we don't really get that a lot. We don't get a lot of mini games anymore. How much you bet that kids these days... Yeah, listen to me. I sound like a boomer. How much you bet that, you know, the new fighting game fans these days, they're probably like, oh my god, these fighting games are adding mini games and shit. Like, this is really cool. Like, we're finally going to get games that have mini games. And they're going to have separate modes and what have you. Sorry, I had to yawn for a bit. And then yet, you know, what's funny is we've had, you know, like, what was it? Mortal Kombat? Armageddon has, you know, Mortal Kombat Racing in it. Tekken 3 started, you know, Tekken Force. You know, you got, like, a beat-em-up mode. You got a racing mode in Mortal Kombat. Smash, for fuck's sake. Smash had tons of stuff. Yes, I count Smash as a fighting game. I'm sorry, I'm one of those guys. Pathetic, I know, but still. Also, real quick, if you, when it comes to Goliaths, you can only really attack them from behind, of course. So again, dodge roll over them and then try to either throw them or let Wolverine do whatever he needs to do. Regardless, or let Logan do whatever he needs to do. I should just call him that, actually. That makes more sense. So, knock them on the ground. You can, you know, leap onto them and attack them from the ground almost infinitely-ish. But once you do that, something that you could do is if you do dodge roll over them and you happen to grab them with circle, I would highly recommend going for the triangle move. So basically, you know, grab them from however you can after you dodge roll them or whatever, or wait for them to come back up, grab them, neutral grab, so don't move anywhere, and then press triangle and then let the, you know, the blade claw glow. Hey, press triangle. It's just a faster way of finishing on the... I think the Goliaths are the shield guys, right? Let's just call them shield guys. I don't know. We'll call the shotgun guys shotgun guys. We'll call the shield guys shield guys. Makes much more sense that way. I like to be more professional about this, but, you know, with Wolverine, it doesn't really matter because they're just different variants of each other practically at the same point. They're just, I don't know, they're not really that unique in terms of enemies. I hate to admit it, but they're really just not. And we're going to be fighting pretty much just like another, you know, machete variant later on, although it's not actually a machete, it's more of like a staff spear thing. But when we fight the assassins, that's practically going to be another version of them anyway. Yeah, if you do grab a health boost, or if you grab like a mutagen, then you can jump out of it and, you know, cancel the animation. Something else too is I think every time you pick up a mutagen, if it's the same one as the last time, then you will gain like level 2/level 3 of it. So do keep that in mind. Yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking here. I'm just kind of being silly. Well, I mean, of course I was waiting for the rockets to come, but, you know, I could have engaged in combat and just, you know, try to be a little bit better about it. Also, yeah, right there's a forklift, and if you can ever at any time get these guys to get attacked or attached to like an obstacle or whatever, go for it. Go for it. It's well worth it, I promise. Then after you pick her up, you know, cutscene's gonna happen. Streaming, I'm not doing that right now. I get the fucking, what song was it called? I got a song in my head. It's one of the Korn songs. Yeah, Hold On. I got Hold On in my head. It won't leave. So anyway, yeah, once again, another group fight. Nothing too big, nothing too scary. And then after that, I think we have to run from the waterfall section. Oh no, we do the Uncharted, you know, trucks. When the fuck did this game come out anyway? I'm not saying like, you know, Uncharted was like the first to ever invent it, but you know. It came out. Oh my god, they're selling this for $120. It came out in 2009, so that was the same year Uncharted 2 came out. Although Uncharted 2, I think, came out October. Oh wow, it came out later. It came after Wolverine. But then again, they were both in development around the same time, so yeah. They're charging $120 for the PS3. This game was on DS? What the fuck? No way. $40 on Amazon for DS1. It was on Wii as well? $20 for Wii. PC is just not available, I guess. PS2, $30. Oh, I see why PS3 is so expensive. Well, that's weird. So the Xbox 360 version is like $50, and the PS3 version is like $120. That's fucking bizarre to me, man. I mean, hell, Web of Shadows for PS3 is like $200. You might be able to find like used copies of this, but I'm just saying, like, that's, yeah, like $80. God damn, apparently I have a rare-ish game, I guess. I didn't know that, so I wouldn't say it's rare. I don't know. It's not that rare. Whatevs. So yeah, but I don't want to get rid of it because it has sentimental value to me. So yeah. Regardless of actual value price, you know, it's a game that was given to me as a gift. So I wanted it for a while. It's just crazy to me. You can probably find a copy that's like $20 somewhere. I bet you. But I'm just saying, like on Amazon, like it's just a little too expensive. Anyway, yeah. So finish out these guys. You know. Run away from the waterfall thing. Nothing that big. But anyway, this is the end of the first chapter. I apologize for it being boring or whatever. But hopefully you enjoyed some of it. If not all of it, I don't know. And I'll see you for chapter 2 out of 5. So take care, everybody.